Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die, where my goal is to give you evidence that although our bodies will disappear, we survive physical death. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And before I introduce you to our guest today, I'm wondering if you want to play a little game with me. Have you ever noticed that there's this little voice in our head? Some people call it the inner critic. Some people call it the committee. Some people call it the negative Nancy. And I apologize if your name's Nancy. But when we wake up in the morning, when you look in the mirror, we're often not filled with empowering thoughts. It's, oh, I look too old, or I'm too big, or whatever that is. And just be conscious. This is my request for all of us for our show today, and even for the rest of your day. Pay attention to what that little voice says. It's not often our friend. It's very often criticizing. It's often talking negative talk. It's not seeing everything through the lens of possibility and what may be possible. And as we on this show talk about some pretty wild, incredible journeys and shows, just pay attention to that little voice. And if it's chiming in with its 2 cents, let's try to make a practice of just setting it aside for this hour and really listening. Because I think when you can pay attention and be in the present moment, you hear some things you not normally would hear if you're just paying attention to that little voice. So I hope I made myself clear there, and I'm asking you to do it pretty much because I'm asking me to do it. And I don't ask you to do anything that I'm not taking on myself. So let's get on to our show. This is episode 75, I'm thrilled to say. And coming to us from British Columbia, we have Garnet Schulhauser. Garnet is a retired lawyer who practiced corporate law for over 30 years. In 2007, he had an experience that changed his life forever. I'm going to let Garnet tell his story in a minute, so I won't tell you any more. After he retired from his law firm, he began his new career as an author, sharing that incredible experience in both of his books. His books are Dancing on a Stamp, Startling Revelations from the Other Side, and Dancing Forever with Spirit, Astonishing Insights from Heaven. Garnet now is speaking and talking on stages and has shared his stories on many, many radio talk shows, and he comes very highly recommended from one of my favorite listeners. So, Garnet Schulhauser, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Well, thank you, Sandra. Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, me too. I've got just a big smile on my face. So I've not been to your area of the world. You're on Vancouver Island. Is that correct, in British Columbia?
Yeah, Vancouver Island, near Victoria, which is at the very, very southern tip of the island.
Oh, an area I'd love to get to that I haven't been to yet. So thank you. And I'm on the other side of the coast. I'm in Massachusetts in the USA, talking to you today. And you're married with a little dog, I hear?
Yes, my wife is Kathy, and I have a little miniature schnauzer named Abby.
Oh, how sweet. How sweet. Dogs are just incredible. In fact, all pets are. So if you wouldn't mind, just talk a little bit about you and what happened. I don't even know. You've told your story more times than I've read it. So if you give us a little backstory of you being a lawyer and then what happened to turn you into this author who's really interested in making a difference.
Yeah, it happened I was still practicing law back in 2007. Mm-hmm. And I was very much of a sort of a straight-laced, button-down corporate lawyer. And I never talked about spirituality or religion or anything like that. I had been raised as a Roman Catholic in a very religious family, and I'd served as an altar boy for many years. But then by the time I hit my 20s and 30s, I started questioning a lot of those beliefs and eventually rejected most of them because they didn't make any sense to me. And then I was casting about for a new paradigm to latch onto, and constantly asking myself the eternal questions of life, like, who am I? Mm-hmm. Why am I here? What's my life's purpose? Right. And the big one, what happens to me when I die?
Well, I know those questions really well.
Yeah, everyone asks those at one point or another, Sandra.
Yeah, sure.
And so I was looking for answers. And then, so in 2007, I'm going for a stroll one sunny afternoon in May, just down the street in front of my office building. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a homeless man jumps out in front of me, just sort of seemed to just pop out of nowhere, standing right in front of me. And he looked like a typical homeless man. He had long, stringy, greasy hair and scraggly beard and dirty, slept-in clothes. Mm-hmm. And he smelled like he hadn't had a shower in over 2 weeks. And
Wow.
so he really funny.
Right.
This guy was different. He was different because he had these amazing, sparkling, dazzling blue eyes. And what they were doing was, first of all, his gaze was sort of penetrating deep within me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like he was penetrating down into the depths of my soul. And I sensed that he knew everything about me, like my history, everything I'd ever said or done. He knew my fears and anxieties, my hopes and aspirations, and my deepest and darkest secrets. And I was puzzled because I'd never met this man before, but I just sensed that he knew everything about me. And at the same time, his eyes were sending me this gush, this wave of pure, unconditional love that was just infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. And it was quite an amazing feeling. So I stood there sort of lapping all this up because it was such a wonderful experience. And it was like I was in a time trap because I didn't know, how long I stood there, didn't care how long I stood there. Mm-hmm. I was just happy. I could have stayed there forever, just taking in this, the love coming from this man. And then he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he quickly disappeared into a nearby store. And when I finally collected my wits, I went into the store to try to find him, but he was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't in there. There was only one entrance and one exit. He hadn't come out, but he wasn't in the store. And so I walked back out on the street, walked up and down, hoping to spot him, thinking that somehow he had slipped past me. Mm-hmm. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, I realized that he had literally disappeared into thin air, wasn't anywhere to be seen. So then that night, as I was walking, driving back to my home after work, I thought, I really have to go and find this guy, find out who he is, why did he stop me, what's this all about? So the very next day, same time, same street, I went back there to try to find him, and I walked up and down for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I was about to lose hope when I spotted him sitting on a bench by himself. So I walked up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?"
Right.
And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." And so then my skeptical lawyer brain kicked in, and I said to him, "Why do you think you can help me when you can't even help yourself?"
That's a fair question.
"Because you've been sleeping on this, it looks like you've been sleeping on the street for weeks and you smell like a dead fish." Well, he just gave me a big smile and he said, "Looks can be deceiving because you look like you're a very successful corporate lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade."
Wow.
He said, "You could turn around and go back to your office and see if you can find those answers you've been seeking all these years on all those emails waiting for you on your computer, or sit down and have a chat with me." So luckily, my common sense basically told me that I had nothing to lose by talking to this guy.
Right.
Half an hour of my day, big deal. I really had to sit down and explore the matter further with him. And so I found out early on that he said his name was Albert, and he was actually one of my spirit guides in disguise. And he told me that I was the only one who could see him in physical form, so that if anybody else had been passing along the street that day, they would have seen me sitting on the bench by myself, talking to myself, basically. And so the first 3 times that he appeared in my life, he showed up as the homeless person. And then after that, he was just a voice in my head, and we communicated by telepathy.
Now that's wild. That's incredible.
So I was curious, and I said to him, further on in our dialogue, I said, "Well, why did you show up as the homeless man? Because now we're communicating by telepathy." And he said it was his way of easing me into the conversation, because had he just started talking to me out of the blue as a voice in my head, I probably would have thought I was losing my mind. And so this way I could I related to him as a physical person. He was there. I touched him. He felt just like a regular person. And so then when he just started talking to me by telepathy, I recognized his voice. I was comfortable with him, and I was happy to carry on our conversation. So it was a very clever way for him to introduce himself to me.
Wow. Garnet, can I just go back to those few times that you first met him? I mean, when he nailed right on that you're an attorney and go back to your office and the emails and the questions you have, certainly that was worth your time to sit with him, but that must have been a really profound moment. Like, how does this guy know this about me? And the only thing I can think of is I grew up Roman Catholic myself, and I would just imagine if I know he was a homeless man. If people would have those kind of encounters with, meeting Jesus for the first time way back when.
Well, it was quite an astonishing moment because I didn't, when he, I knew there's something special about him because of his eyes. But when I started talking to him, he spoke with such wisdom and clarity that it just came through as like, okay, this guy is really special. And he probably, initially, I was questioning about whether he was really a spirit guide. But after a few conversations with him, I clearly believed that he was, and what he spoke was the truth. So it was quite amazing because at that point I wasn't even aware that I had spirit guides, and he came into my life and said, "Okay, yeah, I'm one of your spirit guides. You have several others. I came here to answer your questions." And furthermore, what he told me early on was that he wasn't here just to satisfy my curiosity. He wanted me to write a book about his revelations, so that everyone else would have access to what he was telling me.
Yeah.
So that took me aback a bit because I never ever dreamed about writing a book. And so I was reluctant initially, dug in my heels a bit at first, but he's very persuasive, as spirit can be, as you probably know, Sandra. So after a while, I just capitulated and said, "Okay, Albert, I'll write your book." And that resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp.
Wow. Garnet, when he first came into your mind, how did you know it wasn't just your imagination?
When he first communicated by telepathy?
Yeah.
Well, because I clearly recognized his voice from when I first met him in a physical form. Recognized his voice, so there was no doubt about this was the same person, and so clearly it wasn't my imagination because it was a conversation. I would ask questions and he would give me answers that I would never dreamt of up in my own mind. I mean, it was clearly a conversation with another entity. It wasn't my imagination. No doubt about that.
Yeah. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show the little inner critic that we all have. And if you pay attention to it, it's usually your own voice. So when you're distinctly hearing someone else's voice and it's coming in a conversation manner, yeah, it really does sound like the real thing. So then what happened? He asked you to write a book, and how did it unfold from there?
Well, I didn't tell anybody about my encounter initially, not even my wife. I was just a bit concerned about what she and other people would say.
Oh,
like,
crazy.
What do you mean you're talking to a spirit guide?
Yeah.
Like, you're losing your mind. You're becoming senile early. Anyway, so I'm a bit concerned. Eventually, I sort of slowly dribbled out to my wife that I was writing a book, and she said, "Yeah, okay." And then eventually I said, "And it's a book about meeting a homeless man," and that's fine. And then finally I let on that the homeless man was my spirit guide. Well, actually, she took this very well because she's very spiritual herself.
Okay, good.
And she had a couple of spiritual encounters with her deceased mother and father not long after they passed away. And so she was very much into this. And so she's very supportive. My two sons were supportive as well. I knew I was reluctant to have my book published once I had written the manuscript because I was afraid of what my friends and former law colleagues and clients might think, because this would be very much out of character for me in terms of what they knew of me before I met Albert. And so I debated it for a long time. And finally, as my fellow co-author Sherry Cortland put it, I decided to come out of the spiritual closet. And so I just, fine, I'm going to publish the book, let the chips fall where they may. I knew I was going to lose some people, and I did. Some of my former colleagues and friends have basically just shunned me, haven't spoken to me since I released my book.
Right.
So they probably think that I'm losing my mind. They'd never say that to my face. I just suspect that is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But a lot of the former group were very supportive. A lot of them said, "Good for you to have the courage to write that book and publish it." So it was a mixed reaction. Overall, I won many more new friends than I lost, so it was a positive reaction overall.
Yeah, and fear is so crippling, both from your point of view, because I've got a book called We Don't Die, and nobody in my life knew that I was interested in that sort of thing. So it's scary putting it out there, and you probably find, like me, that there's more people interested than are afraid and will cast you aside. And you do get a lot more friends, and I think your quality of life improves when you start sharing what you really love, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a major transformation for me in my life. Before I was an analytical, skeptical lawyer. Now I've taken a different fork in the road. Now I view things very much differently. I view people much differently. I'm not as judgmental, and because I understand why I'm here and where I'm going, I'm not as stressed out about it, and I'm certainly not afraid of death. I know where I'm going, and I know that I have a mission to Earth, and I'm doing my best to do it, to fulfill that mission, and I'm trying to, and I certainly do enjoy life more than when I was practicing law, no question.
Wow. So that brings me to the title of this show. It's called We Don't Die. From your conversations with Albert and what you've learned, if you wouldn't mind, talk about what you've learned about life after death, and then we can get into life's purpose and some of these other brilliant things that fill the two books. But why do you believe die?
Well, because he very convincingly told me, and this is not news to you, but he said, look at you and everyone else, you're all eternal souls.
Right.
You were created by the source, which some people refer to as God, and we're part of the source. We're connected to the source and to each other. So there is no death to us. Our physical bodies will die, of course, but then our souls just move on and we go back to the spirit side where we came from. Spirit side, some people refer to as heaven, beautiful place. That's our true home. That's where we are beings of energy, Sandra, and that's our sort of our true nature, our true identity. And so, for sure, everyone lives past our physical death. There's no exceptions. Everyone goes back to the spirit side. And contrary to what the Catholic Church taught me as a child, I'm sure they taught you as well, not judge us after we pass away, does not punish us if we haven't sort of followed all the rules. There is no hell. There is no Satan. Everyone goes back to the same place. So we're here to learn and experience things that we need for our evolution as souls. But no matter how many times we go off course, how many mistakes we make, we always end up back on the spirit side. So that's very comforting. He said, that's just the way it works. We're just on a cycle of reincarnation on Earth, and that's how it works. You start out on the spirit side, you incarnate, your physical body dies, you go back to the spirit side.
And what do we do when we go back to the spirit side? I mean, any words from him of what it's like and what we do there?
It's a great place. I mean, it's very much like the heaven that some religions describe. We don't have physical bodies. We don't need to eat or drink or breathe. Don't need to procreate. We can have, through thought creation, we can basically create anything that we want instantaneously through the power of thought. It's a very happy place. Nothing but unconditional love.
I love that.
There's no negative emotions. There's no anger, hate, fear, or anything like that. Just pure unconditional love. And it's just a place where we can acquire knowledge, try to grow and evolve as souls. And one of the things that we do when we're back on the spirit side is we look to incarnate on the denser planes like Earth so that we can experience things that we need, that we feel we need for our evolution. And so, when you finish this life, you'll go back to the spirit side. First thing you'll do is have a life review, in which you go over your most recent life in very sort of minute detail, however you want to do it, and you can watch everything you've done like you're watching a 3D movie, or you can jump back into your body and sort of relive parts of your life. And the other thing is, of course, the beauty of the life review is you get to feel the emotions and hear the thoughts of the people you interacted with during your life, which is a great learning tool, because so often we can go through our life and stepping on other people's toes without really realizing it. And when you have a life review, all of a sudden you can feel the hurt and the anguish of the person you offended, even if you didn't intend to harm them. And so it's a great learning tool. When you finish the life review, then you can decide, okay, I'm going to hang around the spirit side for a while, or I'm going to plan my next life on Earth, or I'm going to plan a life on the dense planes on another planet in the universe. So entirely up to us. No one makes us come here. We do it freely of our own, volition, and it's solely designed to give us the experiences that we need to help us grow. So,
wow. How about the other people that are in our lives right now? I mean, I've lost my dad, my grandmother, my grandfather. Is there reassurance that we'll see them again? And also, as you're talking about reincarnation, I've heard people say before that we can reincarnate in these soul groups. We can come back and people take on different parts of, we're different players in the game when we do it again. Did you get any of that information from
Yeah,
Albert?
absolutely. Albert said, we just sort of, we alternate sort of roles in various incarnations. So sometimes, you're the father and somebody else is the daughter. The next time, you're the niece and somebody else is the uncle. We change roles, and we sort of travel through various incarnations on Earth. And it's just designed to make it easier for us to plan our lives, because when you're planning your life, preparing your life plan, you have to have the cooperation of the other souls who will be a major part of your life, like your parents, your siblings, your spouse. They have to agree to be part of your life. You have to agree to be part of their lives. So it's very much of a cooperative effort, and it sort of works easier, Albert says, if you're traveling together sort of as a group, because then you're sort of used to each other's goals and desires, and you're happy to help them on their groups. In response to, will you see your deceased parents? Absolutely you will. Albert says that when we cross over, we'll be met by a welcoming group, is what he called it. And in that welcoming group will be, your parents, your grandparents, aunts and uncles, other people that you were close to who've already passed on. They'll be there with open arms to give you a big hug when you come across, to reassure you that they're fine, and they welcome you back and help you on your transition. So you definitely will see them. In fact, your parents are likely part of your soul group. So you've probably had other lives on Earth before with them.
Oh, that's great news. From where they are, can they still be in communication with us, or are they busy? I mean, is there like classrooms on the other side? I've talked to many guests, and I really want to believe that my dad is only a thought away and that he can hear my thoughts and things like that. But do we still have a relationship even though they're invisible?
Oh, yes. And according to Albert, they can communicate with us. They don't necessarily do it all that often, but when they feel the need, they'll communicate or leave a sign, do something in the physical, watching over us. They do watch over us. And Albert says that people on the other side can really multitask. So there are classrooms, they can go to lectures, they can
You're funny.
They can attend sporting events, they can do all kinds of things. They can do all these at once, because basically linear time does not exist on the spirit side. So there's only one present moment. There's no past or future. So there's one present moment, and they can do many things. So they can be attending a classroom while at the same time watching what you're doing. So it's comforting, and it's nice to know that they are there. It's a bit frustrating sometimes, Sandra, if you want to have a direct communication, say with your father, and it doesn't seem to be getting through. Well, it is getting through to him. You're not necessarily hearing the reply back. And sometimes you may, and other times you may not.
Right. You bring up the prepare your life plan. And at the beginning you said you asked some pretty profound questions like, what is my life's purpose? Plan, do we actually, before we come here, say, on this time around, this is what I'm going to set out to learn?
Yes, you have a definite goal before you incarnate, and you incorporate things into your life plan that will help you reach that goal, to meet the challenges that you want to meet and overcome. And so you have a very definite plan. And then in your life plan, you will pick out the major things of your proposed life, the things like the place you're going to be born, the identity of your parents, the identity of your siblings and other people. But because once you're born, you do not remember what's in your life plan. And because you have free will to act, you'll often stray off course. So your life is not predetermined. I mean, you set out the broad blueprint of what you hope to accomplish, knowing full well that once you're born, you may not follow it at all, or you may not follow it very closely. And that's part of the challenge of being a human, having a journey on Earth. So you have a definite plan in mind, but the chances of you hitting all the points 100% are fairly remote, because you're often going to miss things. And when it comes, fork do I take, you get guidance from your spirit guides. They're sending you messages telling you which way to go. But humans don't always hear those messages because they're very subtle. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of the show about, a whisper, in your mind, a voice talking to you. Oftentimes that's one of your guides, trying to guide you, trying to tell you which direction you should go. Sometimes you hear it, sometimes you don't. Other examples are flashes of intuition, gut feelings, coincidental events. Mm-hmm. Those are all designed by your guides to give you a message about how to get you back on your life plan path if you've strayed off. And some people hear them, some people don't. Other people hear them and then just rationalize a different response because your mind has its own sort of desires and goals, and your mind doesn't know what was in your life plan. So you often have a bit of a conflict between what your mind wants to do and what your soul and your guides want you to do. So, but it's you have a very definite purpose when you design your life plan. Doesn't always pan out 100%.
Is there a way we can tap into what our life's purpose is here and now? I know at different times of my life, I've just been so confused and not even knowing if I'm on the right path. I mean, is there a way that we can figure it out?
There's no easy way, according to Albert. One of the ways is just listening to the messages you get from your guides. That's not easy. As you probably know, quieting you hear more of these messages, but you have to listen very carefully. It's not easy. It wasn't intended to be easy, Sandra, because as Albert said to me, and I've asked him this, like when we have our conversation, it's like you and I conversing. It's a very direct, and there's nothing hazy about it. It's a very direct communication. I've asked him for personal advice in my life. He has said, I'm not going to give that to you because it would be too easy for you. And if I did that and told you every step of the way what you should be doing, it would defeat the whole purpose of you being here for the rest of, the challenges you set out for your life, the rest of your life. And so he said, I'm not going to do that. And that's why most people guides don't have the direct communication that I have with Albert, because that would just be too easy. So life's a challenge on Earth. It's a tough school, one of the toughest in the universe. And, we're here to figure out what we should be doing, where we should be heading, without sort of a direct step-by-step guidance from our guides. So it's frustrating, but that's just part of life on Earth.
Yeah, and I've found too that, and you may agree, if any one of us listening right now, just ask yourself quietly in your own head, what's the thing you're most proud of in your life, or something that you did. And when you look, it's usually something that required a lot of work, or, I mean, in my case, who I had to rise to be by my father's side as he was dying. Garnet, I would have never seen myself as a patient advocate and talking to the doctors and doing everything I needed to do in the hospital, and how I was with my dad, being strong in a moment, when he was dying. It was really difficult, but it in turn is the thing I'm most proud of. So I can see where the answers won't just come easily. We have to experience them. We really have to. And sometimes they're coming through our hardest times where we get the most growth and can see those things, right?
Absolutely. And as many people have said, you learn more from the difficult times than from your successes. Yeah. And that's very true, because there you have to be strong and you have to resolve to overcome the challenge and move on with your life. And it's very easy to have a bunch of wins in a row, but you actually learn more from your defeats and from the difficult times.
Mm-hmm. I can get that. Let's talk a little bit about spirit guides, because you're a friend of Roberta Grimes. I had her on 2 episodes ago. She's just fantastic. She was mentioning that too. And who are these guides, and do we all have them? And are we led to believe that, even though I'm thinking I'm sitting here alone in this room, that I've got support coming from an invisible source?
Yes, we all have spirit guides, anywhere from, 2 to 3 to sometimes they go up much higher. And your guides are basically like your coaches, and they're souls in the spirit side whose, primary function is to watch what you're doing during your life and to send you messages and try to provide you guidance. And they're there 24/7. They never, usually quite often they're part of your soul group. So for example, with Albert, he and I have had previous lives on Earth together before, and now this time he volunteered to be one of my guides for this current life. And I have 2 others. I met one of them. Her name is Alina. I haven't met the other one. So I know that they're there, and they're always trying to help me out, to guide me. They're like coaches. And then what happens in addition is that every night when we sleep, Sandra, our souls actually leave our physical bodies temporarily, travel to other places around our planet or up back to the spirit side, and there we have a huddle, a consultation with our guides to discuss sort of, how are we doing so far? What should we try to do next? Where do we go from here? And then in the morning, you go back into your body. Of course, you don't remember those consultations, but you're constantly sort of conferring with your guides. And then sometimes you're actually fine-tuning and making little amendments to your life plan based upon what you've already experienced. So very much of an intimate, ongoing relationship.
I can only remember some dreams. I've never remembered an interaction like this. Is that normal that we don't remember these interactions, that they're happening kind of out of our...
Yeah, it's normal that you're not allowed to remember these meetings with your guides every night, or that you even leave your body. That's very normal. It's intended. Some people remember them. Most people don't. But it's just part of the incarnation process, is that they don't want you to remember that you have a life plan, or that you came from the spirit side, or that you have guides, because it would affect sort of your life on Earth. They want you to sort of have a challenge of living on Earth without really knowing where you came from or where you're going. So that's just part of the challenge of a human on Earth.
Yeah, I can get that. Most definitely. Let's talk a little bit about your books. Dancing on a Stamp. Now, that's a very clever title. What does that mean, and where'd you get that from?
Well, it was during one of my conversations with Albert, and I had been complaining to him about something that wasn't going right in my life. And he said to me, here's your problem. He said, imagine that the world is like a big, beautiful ballroom, and it's got gleaming hardwood floors, and sunlight is coming in through the stained glass windows, and the band is playing amazing dance music. And everyone around you is up and dancing and swirling around the whole ballroom and enjoying life and enjoying the dance. And he said to me, you've spent too much of your time on one spot, like you're wearing leg shackles, and you need to cast off your shackles and quit dancing on a stamp. And so that phrase stuck in my mind, that he said I was dancing on a stamp, and I needed to sort of get out and explore the rest of the ballroom. And so when I was casting about for a title for my first book, that phrase kept on sticking in my mind. And so finally I said to Albert, we'll just make a good title for our first book. And he said, absolutely, go for it. So that's where it came from, dancing on a stamp.
I love the explore the rest of the ballroom. It is so easy to be a creature of habit, whether it's the same foods you eat, or the people you hang out with, or vacations you take, or just things you do. But I tell you, life gets juicy when you get courageous and you try something new, do something you wouldn't normally do. I like that advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good advice for everyone. And I've tried to follow it. And I think I have, because I've certainly expanded my my horizons. I've broken away sort of from the rut of being a lawyer, and I'm into new things, and I quite enjoy it. And I'm certainly more fulfilled because of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's that sense of fulfillment. What do you talk about? I know Dancing on a Stamp, Startling Revelations from the Other Side. I know there's some questions I should ask you, but I don't know what the questions are. Like, so what kind of revelations besides what is my life purpose? What happens? Will I die? I want to give you the floor a little bit here, so to speak, and just share just some of the passionate things that you've learned about what life's about, and things we need to know that can empower us today.
Well, one of the things that sort of sticks in my mind is that he basically said, look at, you create your own reality on Earth. First of all, you set up sort of your life situation through your pre-birth planning, and then you create the rest of your reality by your reaction, your free will reaction to the events that happen to you.
Right.
And so you're the author of your own fortunes or misfortunes, and because of that, you can't blame anybody for whatever happens to you in your life. He says that the source does not manipulate events or control events in your life, contrary to what a lot of religions say. Is that if you have good fortune, it's because God decided to bestow that on you, or if you have misfortune, it's because God is unhappy with you. He says totally wrong. God doesn't manipulate things, doesn't cause things to happen to you when you're traveling on your earth journey. And so it's your own journey. You can create what you want of it, and no matter what happens to you, you can either have a positive attitude or a negative attitude. It's entirely up to you. So you should never consider yourself to be a victim of a capricious God or some random act of the universe. You're never a victim. You create your own reality. So that was sort of a bit of an eye opener. The other thing that really surprised me a bit, Sandra, was that he said that no one on Earth dies by accident. He said, even though a plane may crash and 300 people perish,
right,
seems like an accident. It wasn't. He said, you leave your physical body, you die when your soul is ready to leave, and your soul has the absolute final say on when that's going to happen. And so, somebody dies in a car accident. It wasn't. It may seem like an accident, but it's not. The person's soul decided that was a good place to exit, and so that's when it happened. And so that was sort of a surprise.
That is a hard concept to get when you've lost a child, when you've lost somebody by an accident, when something really horrible happens. And I think in the midst of our humanness, we aren't meant to remember the bigger picture. So it is something where, like I said, that little voice can chime in and just set it aside if you're thinking about how can this be, one thing I bring up time after time, watching my dad die and going through his incredibly painful death, and even the fights I had with my siblings and things. Garnet, it was the worst time of my life. And so in the midst of it, there's no way in heck that I would think that I planned this, that Dad went on his own accord, that this should have been. But now several years after, and looking back, everything had to take place the way it did for me to be where I am now, for the level of compassion that I've learned, for the strength that I've built. So,
absolutely, I agree. I mean, your dad's soul chose the time to exit, and it's not just for his benefit, but oftentimes when somebody is dying, it's to help other people with their challenges as well. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it was a big effect on you, and it got you off on the course that you're now on. Right. So he did you a favor and then made an exit when he was ready to go.
Yeah.
So that often happens because souls interact with each other, and they all sort of know what the other person's plan is, and they all try to fulfill it. Our minds don't remember what happened, but things usually unfold the way they should.
Yeah, we just have to trust the process, as painful as it can be. All right, what else did you learn?
Albert said that not only can we incarnate on the earth plane, as humans, but we can also incarnate as animals, and some of us have. And he basically said animals have souls, just like humans. And when I questioned him on that, he said, just look into the eyes of your little dog, and you'll find your answer. You'll find your confirmation that animals have souls. So that was a bit of a surprise to me and to other people. He basically said, though, that when a soul first tries to incarnate on the earth plane, typically they will start off with more simple life forms like animals, because they're not as complex, and then they gradually move up to humans, because humans are very complex, as you know. So chances are you're incarnated in a human. You may or may not have had previous lives on Earth, but a lot of people have. And not only on Earth, but there's millions and millions of planets in the universe with different life forms. Some are more advanced than humans, some less so. And he said we can incarnate on any of those, our choice entirely. So it's entirely up to us. And we can incarnate on Earth as many times as we want. And when we decide in our own minds that we've learned all we're going to learn, or that we're just tired of incarnating here, we can just stop and our incarnations on Earth, go somewhere else, or just stay on the spirit side. So it's entirely up to us. So it's very much of we have the whole universe open to us, and we can go wherever we want to.
Wow. Roberta Grimes, on our episode a couple ago, she said something to me that I'd never really heard before. She said that there are souls that would just love to be in a human body. So bottom line is, feel lucky that you have one. Don't curse the one that you're in. And, she just painted this picture that we should feel really fortunate that we are incarnated in a human form, that we do have life to grow and learn, and in this body is where we can experience the good stuff, all the emotions, get the education for the soul. Does that go along with what you believe?
Yeah, he didn't. Albert didn't mention that it was that there was sort of a waiting list to get into a human body. That may be so. I'll have to ask him about that, Sandra. Actually, what he did say was that he said, humans, you should pat yourself on the back for being here. He said because it takes a very courageous soul to jump into a human body on Earth because it's a very tough school. So, so the people who are here probably have had a fair bit of experience elsewhere before they tackle the Earth plane because it's a very tough school. So I don't know how many other lives I've had elsewhere or how many you've had. We'll find that out when we get back to the spirit side. But it is it's certainly a very challenging environment. And I will ask Albert about that, about whether there's a lineup of souls to get into a human body. That's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, and so you're still in communication with Albert.
Absolutely. Yes, and I should tell you that after my first set of dialogues with Albert, which resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp, he then came back to me in a different format. And, through most of the dialogue, Dancing on a Stamp, we spoke by telepathy. It was a question and answer. And so after I'd finished the manuscript, I hadn't heard from him for a couple of months. And all of a sudden, I woke up one night in my bed, and I saw this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in a doorway of my bedroom. And as it moved closer, I could see it was my old friend Albert in his homeless man disguise, but he was in astral form. And so he said to me, I've come to take you on a series of astral trips because I believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I want you to meet people and I want you to see things in the universe on the spirit side that you can write about for your second book. So then he just literally reached out and pulled my astral body out of my physical body. And I turned around and looked, and my physical body was still laying in bed, sound asleep. And he just said, follow me. And we rose up through the ceiling, up through the clouds, and hovered above our beautiful planet for a moment so I could turn around and look at it and admire the beauty, profound beauty of our planet. And then from there, he took me through a shimmering doorway, and we went to the spirit side. And so that was sort of the beginning of my astral adventures with Albert, which are detailed, described in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit. And then after that set, he came back again after I'd finished my second manuscript, took me on further astral travels, and I've detailed those in my third book, which is called Dance of Heavenly Bliss, and that'll be released sometime in early 2016. And as we speak, I've been having further excursions with Albert, and I'm halfway through my fourth manuscript. So, I just still have contact with him.
That's incredible. Oh gosh, I've heard from people that have had near-death experiences, and it's near impossible to really clearly communicate the experience. But is there any experiences that you can share by looking into on one of these astral trips that just kind of surprised you, or the beauty, or?
On my very first trip, the first trip to the spirit side, as I mentioned, he took me through this shimmering doorway. It was all, as we approached the doorway, it was all black behind it, just like black velvet. As I stepped through, all of a sudden, I found myself standing in the middle of this amazingly beautiful meadow. There was like lush green grass and tall, majestic trees and wildflowers that were resplendent in 1,000 different colors. Many of the colors you'd never seen on Earth and couldn't even describe in words. It was just an incredibly beautiful place. And so we strolled through this meadow, and we went up a low hill. At the top of the hill, I noticed a group of souls waiting for me on the other side. And so we strolled down towards them. And as I got closer, my heart skipped a beat because I recognized who they were. They were my mother, my father, my grandparents, various aunts and uncles who'd passed away. And then running from behind the group, running towards me as fast as his little legs would go, was my dog, Oscar, little dog Oscar, who had passed away 10 years before. And this little guy was running as fast as he could with his little tail wagging his whole body as he came to greet me. So it was a wonderful, a greeting from this group of my, loved ones who had passed on. Warm hugs all around, pure unconditional love, and they welcomed me to the spirit side. I didn't get to linger very long there because Albert said, "Come on, I have to take you towards for a meeting with the Council of Wise Ones." So we walked towards this beautiful white city in the distance, with sort of tall white buildings, domes and spires, sort of gleaming in the light. And we walked down the main boulevard and ended up in front of a building he called the Hall of Wisdom. Okay. And inside we met with the Council of Wise Ones, which was a group of very advanced wise souls. They were sitting around a semicircle table. They all had snow white hair and smooth, unblemished skin, and they wore gold robes and white sashes. Albert said this council is responsible for overseeing all the incarnations on Earth. So it's their job to help people plan their incarnations and figure out where they should go next. And the chair of this committee, this council, her name was Sophia. She said, thank you for coming here. We asked Albert to bring you here because we have a message for you to take back to your fellow humans. So she gave me a message which I put into my second book. So it was really quite an amazing experience.
Can you tell us what the message was?
The message was simply from Sophia was, she said, humans are at a very crucial point in their development. They have developed very advanced technology, but their spiritual and emotional intelligence has not kept pace. And so they let too many times their negative emotions run out of control. Their fear, anger, hate, greed, and that results in a lot of strife and conflict, murders and terrorist acts and wars and so on. And she said, we have to be careful that we don't let that get out of control because we have weapons of mass destruction that could basically destroy all life on our planet. They don't want to see that happen. And what we need to do is, she wanted me to go back and tell my fellow humans that we need to discard and reject our negative emotions and fully embrace love and compassion. And by doing that, we will raise our vibrations and eventually and expand our consciousness. Eventually, the goal is for us to ascend up to our planet in a higher dimension, which some people refer to as the new Earth. And so they're very concerned that we can take the next step before we crash and burned. And she mentioned like a number of other civilizations in the past on Earth, like Lemuria and Atlantis, rose up to very great heights and then end up destroying themselves. And they don't want that to happen to our current civilization. So she said, I'm one of the messengers. They have many, many messengers and channels. You're one of them, Sandra, who are trying to spread the message from spirit through books and radio shows and speaking engagements to try to encourage other people to help them recognize the need to get rid of our negative emotions and embrace love, compassion, and forgiveness. That's where we need to go. We've made a lot of progress in the last 30 or 40 years, but we have a long ways to go. So that's the message that she gave to me, and I try to incorporate that in my second book.
Yeah, I really like that advice, Garnet. It's funny because it's like, I don't even care if you don't believe in life after death and you think this radio show and all talks of life after death and near-death experience and your experiences, if you don't believe it, that's fine. If you learn one thing and you just take on this one thing, it is to practice love, practice forgiveness, practice compassion. Each one of us is a creature from our past. We've all had our ups and downs, and you know what childhood is like. We learn so much of who we are right now is because of things that happened to us when we were little kids. I do believe with all my heart that people are going around doing what they believe is best. And so many times there's friction. You feel like a victim. You want to fight. There's that conflict that you talk of. But if you can, step out of your own emotion for just a second, look at the situation and just say, what if this is a loving soul? They're doing the best they can. Forgive them, forgive yourself. We get activated by things. And, if we have compassion, I read a fortune cookie once, the message, it said, the best place to be in an argument is on the other person's side. Getting into that, being compassionate where they are. I don't know if Sandra Champlain can solve the Earth's problems as far as all the war and pain and things, but if it just starts within each one of us, and we have peace, oh my gosh, that can really spread.
Absolutely, and what you said is very true. It seems, from an individual point of view, it seems like, well, how can I stop the war and the conflicts and the terrorist act? Right. But as I saw a Facebook posting from somebody said that how do you save the world? The answer is one random act of kindness at a time. We should have to do our own thing. Help somebody close by us and spread the word of love, the message, and hopefully other people will pick up on it. Acts of kindness have an amazing ripple effect, Sandra, as you know. You do an act of kindness to somebody and they feel good about it, and they go ahead and bestow an act of kindness on somebody else, and it kind of ripples out. And it can have a much greater effect than you think just because you did one simple thing. But we all have to sort of focus on that and try to do it. And if enough people get engaged in that, if enough people realize what we need to do to take the next step up the evolutionary ladder, the spiritual ladder, eventually we can get there. I mean, Albert said he has a lot of confidence that we can do it. I mean, we have a long ways to go yet, but we've come a long ways, and we're sort of on the right track. And Spirit is really trying to help us by channeling so many messages through many different channels. And the more that the word gets out, the more people are going to hear it. And so you're doing your part, Sandra. I'm trying to do my part. And, if we keep on working away at it, eventually I think we'll get there.
Wow. Garnet, we have about 10 minutes left or so. What haven't I asked you? What do you want to share? What are you passionate about? What are you just burning to
I think one of the things that I got from my astral travels, Sandra, was that we really have to, aside from stopping the abuse of other humans, one another, we really have to stop the abuse of the animals who share our planet and our planet itself, Mother Earth. Like we abuse animals, we pollute our planet, and that also has to stop, because that's just part of a spin-off from our negative emotions. And what brought that home to me was that in my on my first astral trip, Albert took me to a planet many light years away called Proteus, which was a water planet entirely covered with oceans. And we dropped down beneath the oceans, and the undersea world looked much like the undersea world of Earth. Mm-hmm. And I ended up meeting with a dolphin and a humpback whale there. And they said, if the subsurface view of our planet looks familiar to you, it's because most of the sea life that you have on Earth was originally seeded from Proteus, so originally came from there. And they said that they stay in telepathic contact with the dolphins and whales on Earth. This is over many light years, but the power of thought is very powerful, and it's not restricted to light speed. It's virtually instantaneous. So they stay in telepathic contact with their cousins on Earth. And they say they don't like what they hear. The dolphins and whales and other sea life on Earth are very distressed at the abuse they've been suffering from humans over the centuries, through hunting and killing and trapping and imprisoning in water parks. And now a lot of that has stopped to some degree. Still too much of it is going on. They said, look, at the dolphins and whales are very intelligent, sensitive creatures who want to live in peace and harmony with humans and with their planet, and they don't understand why they're being abused by humans. And they try to communicate with us, we just aren't hearing it. So it really made me think, animals do have feelings and emotions. I also got that when Albert took me to the Akashic Records, and he showed me a few glimpses of my current life in the past. And one of those episodes where I came home one day from work, and my little dog, Oscar, who I met when I first went to the spirit side, he came running towards me, his little tail wagging, hoping to greet me and getting a pat on his head. I was lost in thought, walked right past him, totally ignored him. And the poor little guy had to slink off back to his bed, depressed and anxious and wondering why I didn't love him anymore, which is really, and I got to actually feel his feelings in this life review, this segment. So it really makes you aware of the fact that all animals have feelings and emotions, and they just want to live in harmony with us, and they're not there to be abused, at our pleasure. They have their own place in the universe. They have their own place on our planet, and we should respect that. So that was really an eye-opener for me.
Yeah, animals are just so much love. And, just you telling that story, I thought, what if we could live each day thinking that someday we're going to replay this event from the other person's point of view? What is it we need to do now in order to make it count? And I'm thinking of this. I live with my aunt, and we have a cat, and he loves her, and he doesn't give me the time of day, right? And I was thinking about that, about Oscar, and I'm thinking, all right, I need to be nicer to Harry. It's just, I don't think it, Josh, one of the things I'm really getting from all of these interviews is who we're being today, the acts of, random acts of kindness, the unconditional love, sharing love, being loving. I mean, it's all things of us giving. So what a great habit to be in, no matter who it is. It might be somebody in your family or a friend, or it could be a total stranger. It's the act, I think, of giving that actually makes the difference.
And as Albert says, one of the important things that we should try to remember is to think before we speak and act, to think about, as you mentioned, how's the other person going to take this? Are they going to be offended? Are they going to be hurt?
Right.
And if you sort of go around with that in mind, then you'll cause less harm and less anguish to other people, because you'll try to put yourself in their place and say, what would that person, how would I react if I was that person and I heard my words or felt my actions? And so that's very important, and it's not easy to do because you get caught up in the day-to-day life and the activities, and everything's moving so fast. But if we can do that, as much as we can, we'll save a lot of hurt and anguish in the world with the people that we interact with, including our pets and the other animals that we encounter every day.
That's great words, Garnet. What gives you the most joy in sharing this message?
The most joy is that I'm happy to be one of the messengers for Spirit to spread their message of love and hope and forgiveness. I'm hoping that I can make a difference in people's lives. The people who are out there who are struggling with the question of, who am I and what happens when I die, I hope that Albert's revelations can give them some comfort, some inspiration to know that, okay, no matter what you do, no matter how many mistakes you make, you're going to end up back on the spirit side. And in the meantime, try to get the most out of your journey. Try to enjoy it. And as Albert has said to me many times, he said, you need to lighten up. He said, it's not that serious. You may think life on earth is so serious, but, whatever you do, you always learn from whatever experience you have, whether you're on course or off course, whether you do good things or bad things. There's something to be learned from everything you do, and you should look at it as an adventure, as a challenge, and knowing full well that when you get back to the spirit side, you can come back and try life again or whatever you want. There's no punishment, and so enjoy your life. Try to make the most out of it, and I think that's very good advice.
It's super advice. Because can we ever really fail if we come back here again and life is a challenge and we're here to learn? I mean, is there such thing really as failure?
Absolutely not. He says, you can come back, you can incarnate 20 times or 2,000 times, up to you. And when you graduate from this earth plane, it's you who decides that you've had enough of it, that you've learned everything you can learn. So it's entirely up to you. And no, you can't fail. You can never go wrong. You can never become lost. You're always going to end up back in the spirit side where you can regroup, plan your next life, or just decide, to heck with the planet Earth, I'm going somewhere else. So there is no failure. You can only go onwards and upwards. You can never go backwards.
Onwards and upwards. I'm writing this down. What's really great about this is if we really take on, like really, truly, and honestly, that we don't die, that we're going to go home, we're going to see everybody again, we're going to choose to come back or not, that we're here to learn and play full out and, like you say, love, forgive, have hope. To really believe that. And it takes, I'm sure, daily reminders or even hour by hour reminders. But if it does give us a chance to lighten up, what seems to be available, Garnet, is a whole heck of a lot more joy, as opposed to making ourselves wrong or always thinking about what we haven't done or, living in grief and sadness and depression and despair. I mean, those words are so powerful that can really transform the way we live our life now.
Realize who we are and where we're going. And if we do that, we'll have more joy in our lives. We'll have a happier journey on Earth, a more fulfilling journey, and we'll be able to spread that joy and that happiness to others around us and help them with their journeys. And so that's really what life here is all about.
Wow. You are an incredible man. Well, in closing, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out more about your books? How can we find out more about the fantastic Garnet Schulhauser?
Well, the best source is my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. That's hard to remember, Sandra. So if people Google Dancing on a Stamp or Dancing Forever with Spirit, they will get to my website. And there's information on my books. You can download a free excerpt from each book. You can watch a book video for the books. There's buy links on my website where you can just click in to get into Amazon and Barnes and Noble where you can buy the books. There's links to all my social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Yeah, I saw those. You're a busy man.
Yeah, so there's lots of information there, and my email address is on my website, contact@garnetschulhauser.com, and I'd be happy to hear comments or questions from any of your listeners.
Oh, that's so great. And also, you don't know this, Garnet, but some of my listeners do, unless it's your first episode. And this radio show plays all over the place. But as a home base, I have WeDon'tDieRadio.com. And this episode is episode 75 with Garnet Schulhauser. So the links to your website and your Facebook page and YouTube and Twitter, et cetera, and so forth, and to your books, I have all those links on your page at WeDon'tDieRadio.com. And it's also fun to go see who this incredible man is and what he looks like. You know, so often we just hear the voices and you just wonder, who is that person? Well, Garnet, any final words for us before I wrap up the show?
No, Sandra, I think you're doing a fantastic job in helping to spread message from spirit, and I encourage you to continue, and you're a wonderful host. Love being here.
Oh, thanks. I loved hearing the story. It's so new to me that we can have an experience like that and it's not on the brink of our death, like having a near-death experience. You know? Oh, one quick question. When you experienced that trip, the astral trip, did it occur to you as like extremely real and like you can remember it like it just happened? Or is it kind of a distant memory now?
No, it was very crystal clear. When I woke up in the morning after a trip with Albert, it was absolutely crystal clear and vivid in my mind, more so than any dream I've ever had, and more so actually than any other waking memory of my past life. So it was very clear, stayed with me for a long time. Some of the little details are getting a little fuzzy now after several months, but it was very clear. And what I would do when I'd wake up, I'd go to my computer and quickly type out my rough notes about what I saw, who I talked to, you know, what I experienced, and that formed the basis for my manuscript. So yes, they were absolutely very clear.
Very good. Well, Garnet, thank you so much for being our guest today. Really, thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Sure. We'll meet up sometime somewhere in the future. And to our listener, I really want to thank you for taking the time to engage in this conversation and listen. And I know for me, I've heard a lot of new things. And something I'm left with is what Garnet said at the very beginning is looks can be deceiving. You don't know who the Albert is in your life. And it may not be somebody who might just disappear. Could be your brother, your sister, somebody you're having a conflict with. They may be the one that's going to teach you your biggest gift in life. And you might be in the midst of conflict right now, or struggle or pain. Who knows, or even joy. But just look for the gift within every person, because looks can be deceiving. So in closing, this is Sandra Champlain. I've been your host on WeDon'tDieRadio.com. I believe that life is an education for the soul, and that your life here on earth is important. So thank you for listening. Make today count, will you? Do a random act of kindness, maybe? Anyways, thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.